and thank you for joining me for a special vodcast edition of the podcast Teachers for Teachers. My name is Hannah Miles, and I recently joined our Teachers for Teachers hosts, Aubrey and Joanna, and we talked about how I use movement in my classroom as part of the Power of 30 program that my school has started using. So today I'm going to talk about how I incorporate movement into my daily sight word practice in my first grade classroom. Now, you may be asking, what are sight words? And when I say sight words, I'm referring to a list of the most commonly used and read words in the English language. These words are also sometimes referred to as dolch words or fry words, and those are popular lists of these commonly used words that are kind of set by grade level at which, students should be learning them, able to read them, because they occur in text so frequently. And these sight words are pretty commonly practiced and learned throughout the primary grades.
Here's a list on the screen. Teachers essentially want students to have these words memorized so that when they come across them in text, they can read them automatically. These words are also often not phonetic, so they can't really be sounded out. An example of this would be the word because. If I were a first grader and were to sound this out, I would sound it out like b-ek, a-z, and probably lose the meaning of this word in text. So it's important to memorize these words so that way when students come across them, they know them right away and can keep reading.
Practicing and knowing these sight words can help a student read fluently and therefore help them better understand what it is they're reading. In the past, I've had students practice them using flashcards. So I would hold up a flashcard, give a student, less than 5 seconds to read it and put it down. Those they didn't know would go in a pile. Those they did know would go in a pile. And we would kind of keep practicing that way. I've also used different matching games or like repeated reading passages with these sight words. And those are all great strategies. And I still do utilize those strategies when trying to teach sight words. But while my school is incorporating Power Up 30, I wanted to find a way to incorporate physical activity into our daily routine of practicing these sight words. And so I call this strategy that I like to use out of seat sight words. And I utilize a PowerPoint that flashes onto my smartboard. And so it'll kind of flash these different sight words onto the screen. And that sight word is only going to be up there for about a second before it changes to the next.
It looks like this. Students are standing up spread out throughout the room and read these words out loud as they come across the screen. Now, students who don't know the words are hearing their peers read them and therefore getting exposed to these new words. After 5 to 10 sight words have appeared on the screen, a physical activity slide shows. The slides look like this and show students some sort of exercise to do. I have slides that show lunges, squats, jumping jacks, and sit-ups. These slides appear for about 10 seconds and give students a chance to move and get a quick break before the next set of words will appear on the screen. Here is some footage from my classroom of my students doing their out-of-seat sight words.
Sit up. I have really enjoyed using this strategy in my classroom. I start off the week by showing just those 10 new sight words. And then later on in the week, I'll kind of add in old sight words that we've learned just to kind of keep students aware of those words and keep them practicing, keep randomizing the order so students just aren't memorizing those words for the week and then kind of losing them. This strategy only takes about 2 to 3 minutes in the classroom. And after that, students start to get pretty tired from the exercises. So I wouldn't encourage it any more than 3 minutes. This strategy makes for a great transition between activities. So like from a desk to floor activity, or just to kind of mark a little time period in between two things. And if you don't think though that this strategy is going to work for you in your classroom, I do use other sight word strategies and practices that allow my students to kind of still get up and move around the room.
I will place sight words on index cards around the room and have students scavenger hunt these words with a partner. They will look for these words, read them to each other, and record them. Students can also read these words independently around the room. I have read around the room pointers that students can get when they are finished with their work, and they can whisper read sight words, spelling words, and other posters that I have placed around my room on the walls. These activities get students out of their seats and walking around while practicing important skills.
So those are all the ways that I get my students moving while we're practicing our sight words. I hope you enjoyed this podcast and that you learned about some ways to kind of fit physical activity into a classroom routine. Thank you so much for joining me, and remember to keep moving, grooving, and improving in your classroom.